Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is Monday and we are here for True Crime Tales. This is specifically serial killers and whatnot. As always, I want to remind you guys that Wednesday we have the strange and the unusual, which is mythical creatures, made up fantasy, whatever. And then on Fridays we have Deadly Days, which talks about some of the deadliest mass shootings in America and other places. Both of those are new segments, so Wednesday and Friday, and then all of these come out on my podcast the day after they come out on YouTube. So you can get this video and a podcast on Tuesday, Wednesday's video on Thursday, and Friday's video on Saturday. So that's how we're going to do it. With that being said, let's get into it. We have a graphic content warning. Always going to have the graphic content warning. I still don't know how people can comment and say that I didn't forewarn them because I put this in every video. It gets gnarly. We talk about bad things. We talk about death. We talk about murder. We talk about rape. We talk about sexual assault. We talk about children. We talk about adults. It pretty much covers everything. So graphic content warning. Alright, let's start it. Michael Bruce Ross was an American serial killer who committed at least 8 murders and was nicknamed the Roadside Strangler. He was executed by the state of Connecticut in 2005. He was the last person executed in Connecticut before the state ended capital punishment, as the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled capital punishment unconstitutional in 2015, converting the sentences of the state's remaining death row inmates to life in prison without parole. Ross was born in Putnam, Connecticut on July 26, 1959, to Patricia Hilda Lane and Dan Graham Ross. He was the oldest of 4 children, and having 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. The family lived on a chicken farm in Brooklyn, Connecticut. Ross's home life was extremely dysfunctional. His mother, who abandoned the family at least once, had been institutionalized and beat all 4 of her children. It's not an excuse. But back then, if you had mental health problems, you didn't seek help for them. There was no help for them. You didn't even tell anybody if you had them. And it really sounds like she was going through probably bipolar disorder. But I just want y'all to know that doesn't excuse what she did. Still makes her a crappy mom. But just keep in mind that back in that day, they didn't deal with mental illness. It was secret, and you just suffered in silence. Some family and friends have suggested that he was also molested by his teenage uncle, who committed suicide when Ross was 6 years old. At age 12, Ross molested 2 girls. In response to his sexual behavior and curiosity, his father beat him as punishment. His mother would determine when Ross was punished, and his father would enforce the actual punishment. So it kind of sounds like his father was abusive by proxy, if that makes sense. So, like, he didn't want to do it, but if he didn't do it, then she was going to do it, and she was like 10 times worse than if he did it. And you know what? I stand by the fact that men can be abused too, and women can be abusive. It very well could have been a domestic violence situation, as well as just, or in addition to assaulting her own children, if that makes sense. Ross was highly intelligent and performed well in school. He graduated from Killingly High School in Killingly, Connecticut in 1977 and graduated from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where he studied economics in May of 1981. He became an insurance salesman and also exhibited increasingly antisocial behavior. Ross began stalking women in his sophomore year of college, and in his senior year, he committed his first rape, followed by his first murder soon after. Between 1981 and 1984, Ross murdered 8 girls and women aged between 14 and 25 in Connecticut and New York. He was sentenced to death on July 6, 1987, in Connecticut by Judge G. Sarsfield Ford. In 2001, while on death row, Ross pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter for killing Paula Pereira in New York in 1982 and was sentenced to 8 1/3 to 25 years in prison. How do you measure 1/3 of a year? Would that be like, that wouldn't even be like 6. It would be like 6 months. It'd be like 3, right? No, it'd be 3 months. So 8 years and 3 months. He spent almost 18 years on death row before his execution in May of 2005. Ross confessed to all 8 murders and was convicted for the last 4. He raped 7 of his murder victims and was also alleged to have raped but not killed a 21-year-old woman named Vivian Dobson in 1983. Plainfield police rejected the possibility that Ross had not been Dobson's rapist. They did not press charges, and Ross made no confession. Ross was also a suspect in several rapes and murders in Indiana. One possible victim included Candace Ferris, who was vacationing in Indiana when she was taken by gunpoint and raped. She managed to escape and was later found by her friends at a nearby cornfield, distraught and without clothing. She had been driving off with a man that fit Ross's physical description. His victims include, and this name, I'm probably not going to say it right, and I'm so sorry, Dzung Ngak Ton, Vietnamese Cornell University student who was abducted from Warren Hall on May 12, 1981. Her body was found in a creek at the bottom of a gorge on May 17th, close to the university. Dzung's death was ruled to be a suicide. Michael confessed to a murder during a 1987 session with a psychiatrist, although he was never charged. Tammy Williams, 17, abducted from Brooklyn, Connecticut on January 5, 1982, while she was walking home from her boyfriend's house. She was later found raped and strangled. Paula Pira, 16, abducted from Wallkill, New York, while hitchhiking on April 2, 1982, after Ross picked her up on his way to Connecticut from Cornell. He raped and dumped her body near Interstate 84. She was found 18 days later. Deborah Smith Taylor, 23, abducted near Danielson, Connecticut on June 15, 1982, after her vehicle ran out of fuel. She and her husband had split up and went in opposite directions for help. Ross raped and strangled Taylor. A jogger found her skeletal remains approximately 4 months later. Robin Dawn Stavinsky, 19, abducted from Norwich, Connecticut while hitchhiking on November 19, 1983. Ross raped and strangled Stavinsky in a wooded area on the grounds of the Norwich State Hospital. Her body was found a week later. Like, you were that close to the hospital. If somebody had just come out and, like, looked, like, this close to the hospital. Like, that's crazy to me. You were, like, on top of a hospital and still managed to not only do it and kill her, but get away with it for oh so long, you know? Yeah. April Bernius and Leslie Shelley, both 14, kidnapped from Griswold, Connecticut, while walking home together on April 22, 1984. Both girls were taken to Beach Pond in Rhode Island, where he sexually assaulted Bernius and strangled both. I don't know what he had against Leslie. I don't know if maybe she just wasn't his type, she didn't fit in. Like, I don't know why he only murdered her. I'm grateful that he did only murder her, but I mean, not grateful, but you know what I mean. Like, it could have been a double rape and a double murder, and I'm glad at least one of them didn't have to go through that. Michael then put their bodies into his trunk before dumping them in a culvert near Preston, Connecticut. Wendy Barabult, probably not right either, 17, abducted from Griswold, Connecticut, while walking down Connecticut Route 12 on her way to a convenience store on June 13, 1984. Wendy was strangled and sexually assaulted. Her body was found in a field 2 days later. Witness descriptions led police to Ross. So basically, it was Wendy that got him caught, if that makes sense. So, like, during his incarceration, and here we go with people who glorify serial killers, he met his fiancée, Susan Powers, who broke up with Ross in 2003 but still visited him until his death. He became a devout Catholic after his arrest in 1984, meeting regularly with 2 priests through the years and praying the rosary each morning. They're still going to hell, in my opinion. During his time in prison, Ross translated documents into Braille, acted as a mentor to other inmates, and financially sponsored a child from the Dominican Republic. Although he opposed the death penalty, Ross strongly supported his own death sentence in the last year of his life, saying that he wanted to spare the victims' families any more pain. According to Kathy Yeager, a lay minister who visited Ross in prison for prayer, Ross believed that he had been forgiven by God and that he would be going to a better place once he was executed. No, you're not. I don't care what you believe in. No, you're not. And that he would be going, she said, quote, "He's not being punished. He's moving on to eternal life. That's what is ironic about the death penalty. He's looking forward to the peace," end quote. Yeager also said that Ross had come to believe there was no way his death sentences would be commuted without forcing the victims' families to suffer through more legal hearings, and that he knew his life would be meaningful even behind bars. He's had a Sorry, I'm struggling with words today. Even behind bars. Quote, he's had a horrible life and he's wanted to do good, end quote. In spite of this, an hour before the execution was set to take place, in the early hours of January 6, 2005, Ross's lawyer, acting on behalf of Ross's father, obtained a 2-day stay of execution. Ross was then scheduled to die by lethal injection on January 29, 2005 at 2:01 a.m. However, earlier in the day, the execution was again postponed because of doubts that Ross was mentally competent. Having fought against his death sentence for 17 years, he suddenly waived his right to appeal. His attorney claimed that Ross was incompetent to waive appeals as he was suffering from death row syndrome. In his final days, Ross became an oblate or associated of the Benedictine Grange, a Roman Catholic monastic community in West Reading, Connecticut. It's a lot of words. Ross was executed by lethal injection on May 13, 2005 at Osborne Correctional Institute in Somers, Connecticut. He was 45 years old. Ross did not request a special last meal before his execution, thereby dining on the regular prison meal of the day, turkey a la king with rice, mixed veggies, white bread, fruit, and a beverage. When asked if he would like to make his last statement, he said without opening his eyes, "No, thank you." Ross was pronounced dead at 2:25 a.m. His remains were buried at the Benedictine Grange Cemetery in Reading, Connecticut. Vivian Dobson, whom Ross was alleged to have raped, became a vocal opponent of the death penalty in an effort to save Ross's life. Which I don't like, he raped you, according to you, like, allegedly, because I don't know if they ever proved this, but why would you want to save his life? Like, let the man go. Execution of Ross was the first in Connecticut in 2005, the first execution in Connecticut since 1960, the 22nd execution in the United States in 2005, and the 966th execution in the United States since 1976. And that is the story of Michael Bruce Ross. He was a real winner, as you can tell. As always, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Be cautiously kind to others and make good choices. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.